Individuals whose mode of thinking tends toward fancifulness and superstition can make no progress on the path to occult knowledge. It is a precious treasure that the pupil is to acquire. All doubt about the higher worlds passes from him. With all their laws, they reveal themselves to him. But he cannot have this good fortune as long as he allows himself to be the prey of phantasmagoria and illusions. It would go badly for him if his imagination and his preconceptions were to run away with his intellect. Dreamers and fancy-ridden individuals are as unfit for the path to occult knowledge as those who are under the sway of superstitions. This cannot be overemphasized, for the most sinister enemies on the path to knowledge in the higher worlds lurk in fantasies, daydreams, and superstitions. Yet nobody need believe that the pupil loses all sense of the poetry in life, all power of enthusiasm, because the words, "all prejudice must leave you," are written over the portal leading to the second trial, or because at the portal leading to the first trial, he must read, "Without healthy human reason, all your steps are taken in vain." If the candidate is in this way sufficiently advanced, the third trial awaits him. Here he has no feeling of a goal. Everything is left in his own hands. He finds himself in a situation where nothing prompts him to act. He must find his way quite alone, from out of himself. No persons or things are there to stimulate him to action. Nothing and nobody can now give him the strength he needs, but only he himself. Failure to find this strength in himself will very soon leave him standing where he stood before. All that is necessary is that the candidate should be able quickly to come to terms with his own nature. For here, he must find his higher self in the truest sense of the word. He must instantly decide to listen in all things to the inspiration of the Spirit. There is no time for doubt or hesitation. Every minute of delay would prove only that he is still unfit. Whatever keeps him from listening to the voice of the Spirit must be boldly overcome. It is essential in this situation to have presence of mind, and the training at this stage is concerned with the full development of this quality. All inducements to act or even to think, to which the candidate has previously been accustomed, now cease. In order not to remain inactive, he must not lose himself, for only within his own being can he find the single firm point to which he can hold. At this stage, no less than at the others, everyday life is for many an occult training. Individuals who have reached the point of being able to come to a swift decision, without hesitation or much deliberation, when faced with tasks suddenly devolved upon them. For such individuals, life itself is a training in this sense. There are situations where only immediate action will succeed. A person who can not only act instantly to ward off an imminent misfortune, but has made this faculty of quick decision a permanent personal quality, has unconsciously attained the degree of maturity necessary for the third trial. For what is essential at this stage is absolute presence of mind. In the occult schools, this trial is known as the trial by air, because while undergoing it, the candidate can find no support, either in the firm basis of external incentives or in what he has learnt from the patterns, tones, and colors at the stages of preparation and enlightenment. He must find support solely in himself. If this trial has been successfully endured, The pupil may enter the temple of higher wisdom. Very little more, only the barest indication can be said about this. What has now to be carried out is often expressed by saying that the pupil must take an oath to betray nothing of the occult teachings. These expressions, oath and betray, are inadequate to begin with and actually misleading. There is no question of an oath in the ordinary sense of the word, but rather of something learnt by experience at this stage of development. The candidate learns how to apply the occult teaching, how to place it in the service of humanity. He begins really to understand the world. It is not a question of withholding the higher truths, but far rather of presenting them in the right way, with the appropriate tact. The silence he learns to keep is a quite different matter. He acquires this fine quality in regard to things of which he previously used to speak, especially in regard to the manner in which he spoke. He would be a bad initiate who did not place all the mysteries he has experienced in the service of the world as far and as adequately as is possible. The only obstacle to communication in this field is a lack of understanding by a recipient. Admittedly, the higher mysteries do not lend themselves to casual talk, but nobody who has reached the stage of development here is actually forbidden to say anything. Everything is left to his own responsibility. He learns that in every situation he has to discover entirely through himself what he has to do. And the oath means simply that he is fit to bear this responsibility. If the candidate has come to be ready for the experiences described above, he is given what is called symbolically the drought of forgetfulness. This means that he is initiated into the secret of how to act without allowing himself to be continually disturbed by the lower memory. This is necessary for the initiate, for he must at all times have full confidence in the immediate present. He must be able to wipe out the veil of memory which envelopes man at every moment of his life. If I judge something that happens to me today according to what I experienced yesterday, I am exposed to a multitude of errors. Naturally, this does not mean that experience gained in life should be disavowed. It should always be kept in mind as clearly as possible. But as an initiate, a man must have the capacity to judge every new experience exactly as it is, and of letting it work upon him, unobscured by anything from the past. I must be prepared at all times for the fact that every object or being can bring me some entirely new revelation. If I judge the new by the standard of the old, I am liable to error. Remembrance of past experiences will help me most by enabling me to see the new. If I had not had a particular experience, I might perhaps be blind to the essential character of the object or being before me. Experience, therefore, should serve the aim of envisioning the new, not judging it by the standard of the old. In this respect, the initiate acquires very definite qualities. Many things that remain concealed from the uninitiated are thereby revealed to him. The second drought given to the initiate is the drought of remembrance. Through it, he acquires the power to have higher mysteries always present in his soul. Ordinary memory would be unequal to this. We must become completely united with the higher truths. We must not only know them, but be able, quite as a matter of course, to apply them in living action, just as we normally eat and drink. They must become practice, habit, inclination, There must be no need to keep thinking about them in the ordinary sense. They must come to expression through the man himself. They must blow through him, like the currents of activity in his bodily organism. So will he raise himself in the spiritual sense more and more to the level to which nature has brought him physically. When an individual develops his feelings, thoughts, and attitudes in the way described in the chapters, dealing with the stages of preparation, enlightenment, and initiation, he brings about in his soul and spirit an organic membering similar to that brought about by nature in his physical body. Before this development, soul and spirit are undifferentiated masses. The clairvoyant perceives them as interlacing cloud-like spirals, dully gleaming with reddish-brown or even reddish-yellow tints. After development, they begin to assume brilliant yellowish-green or greenish-blue colors and display regularity in their structure. This regularity, which leads to higher knowledge, is achieved when the pupil brings into his thoughts, feelings, and attitudes a harmony such as that which nature has endowed his bodily functions, enabling him to hear, digest, breathe, speak, and so on. The pupil learns gradually to breathe and see with the soul, to speak and to hear with the spirit. A particular effort must be made to cultivate the quality of patience. Every impulse of impatience has a paralyzing, even a destructive effect upon the higher faculties that slumber in the human being. It is only when we surrender ourselves again and again to a very definite thought, adopting it with every fiber of our being, that any result can be achieved. This thought is as follows: I must do everything I can to further the development of my soul and spirit, but I will wait quite calmly until higher powers have found me worthy of enlightenment. If this thought becomes so powerful in the pupil that it grows into an actual trait of his character, he is treading the right path. This trait will then be evident even in his outer appearance. His gaze will become steady, his movements more purposeful, his resolutions decisive, and everything that goes by the name of nervous tension gradually disappears. Before training, our feeling would have been aroused and directed against an offender. Anger would have surged up within us. In such a case, however, the thought that immediately arises in the mind of the pupil is, "This insult does nothing to change my true value." And then he does whatever has to be done to counter the insult with calmness and composure, not in anger. Patience attracts the treasures of higher knowledge, impatience repels them. Valuable as all higher knowledge is, we must not crave for it, if it is to come to us. He who wishes to have higher knowledge for his own sake will never attain it. And this requires above all that in the deepest depths of the soul, man should be honest with himself. He must be under no illusion whatever concerning his own self. With inner truthfulness, he must look fairly and squarely at his own faults, weaknesses, and inadequacies. You can remove such obstacles only by becoming clear about yourself. Every faculty is slumbering in the human soul and can be awakened. An individual can also improve his intellect and reason if he quietly and calmly brings home to himself why he is weak in this respect. Such self-knowledge is naturally difficult, for the temptation to be deluded about one's own nature is immeasurably great. Whoever makes a habit of being truthful with himself opens the portals to higher insight. Every kind of curiosity must pass away from the pupil. He must rid himself as far as possible of the habit of asking questions about matters on which he wants information merely for the sake of satisfying his personal thirst for knowledge. He should ask only about matters which can help to make his own being a more effective servant of evolution. Nevertheless, his delight in knowledge and his dedication to it should in no way be weakened. You should listen attentively to everything that serves this aim and seek every opportunity for practicing this devotion. Education of the life of wishes is especially necessary in the process of occult development. This does not mean that we should have no wishes. We must wish for anything that we are to attain, and a wish will always tend to be fulfilled if backed by a particular force. This force is derived from right knowledge. Do not wish at all before you have recognized what is right in any particular domain. That is one of the golden rules for the pupil. The wise man first learns to know the laws of the world, and then his wishes become powers which prove their efficacy. If I get angry or annoyed, I build a wall around myself in the soul world, and the forces which should develop my eyes of soul cannot approach. An eye of the soul must develop in me, but the rudiments of such an organ are present in every human being. It remains ineffective as long as he is capable of anger. Many become impatient or skeptical because they have fought against certain traits of soul for years and yet clairvoyance has not developed. Other traits which have to be combated as well as anger and irritability are timidity, superstition, prejudice, vanity and ambition, curiosity, eagerness to impart unnecessary information, and the tendency to make distinctions among human beings according to the outer characteristics of rank, sex, race, and so forth. The fact is that we come to see things truly only when we are no longer steeped in prejudice. Every word spoken without having been thoroughly clarified in thought is a stone thrown in the way of esoteric training. The important point is not that my opinion differs from that of the other person, but that he will discover what is right out of himself if I contribute something towards it. Thoughts of this kind shed a quality of gentleness over the character and behavior of the pupil, and gentleness is one of the main factors in all esoteric training. Harshness scares away from around you the soul forms which should awaken your inner eyes. Gentleness clears away the obstacles and opens your inner eyes. Together with gentleness, another trait will soon be developed in the soul of the pupil, that of quietly paying attention to all the delicate features in the soul life around him while maintaining complete stillness within his own soul. Gentleness and quiet inner patience open the soul to the soul world, the spirit to the spirit world. Persevere in quiet seclusion. Close the senses to the messages they brought you before your training. Bring to stillness all the thoughts which were in the habit of surging up and down within you. Become inwardly still and silent. Wait in patience, and then higher worlds will begin to fashion your eyes of soul and ears of spirit. There are no obstacles other than those which a person places in his own path and can avoid if he so resolves. There are other paths which lead more quickly to the goal, but what is here meant has nothing to do with them because they may have certain effects upon a man which an experienced occultist considers undesirable. Anyone who does not want to entrust himself to dark, sinister powers, of whose real nature and origin he can know nothing, had better have nothing to do with such things.